Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the dark room deep under the Pentagon. The walls were thick metal and concrete. No sound from the outside world could get in. On the big screen in front of him, an alien face looked back. The creature was tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. Its name was Zarthik, and it spoke for the Galactic Council. The Council gives humanity one last chance, the alien said in perfect English. You have 14 of your solar cycles to stop building warships. You must join our peaceful union. If you refuse, we will force you to obey. Jake had watched this message 5 times already. Each time, he felt the same cold anger in his chest. The alien spoke about peace, but Jake knew the truth. The Council did not want peace. They wanted slaves. President Linda Hayes sat at the long table behind Jake. Her face was tired and worried. She had been president for 3 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. Around the table sat the most important people in America's military. General Rick Davis was there, his old face hard as stone. Secretary of Defense Carol Brooks read through thick files of secret reports. They think we will give up without a fight, General Davis said. His voice was rough and angry, just like the Centauri people did. 40 billion souls, and now they are nothing but farm workers for the Council. Jake turned away from the screen and looked at his friends. These people had worked with him for years. They knew what was coming. The Council had done this before, to other worlds and other people. First came the demand for peace. Then came the warships. Then came the end of freedom. How long do we have? President Hayes asked. They say 14 cycles, Jake replied. But our spy satellites saw their fleets moving 3 days ago. They are already coming. The Council never planned to wait for our answer. The room became very quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. The Council had lied. They always lied. They would attack Earth, whether humans agreed to surrender or not. Secretary Brooks pushed a red button on the table. Warning lights began to flash. All commanders, all governors, all department heads, she said into her microphone. This is not a drill. Humanity's survival depends on what we do in the next 3 days. Jake walked to another screen and typed in his secret codes. The display showed the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. To anyone watching from outside, it looked empty except for a few mining stations and research labs. But Jake knew better. Hidden in the shadows of the biggest asteroids were hundreds of human warships. The Council's spies had been watching Earth for months, but they had missed the most important thing of all. Operation Dark Harbor is ready, Jake announced. The Council thinks we have 12 old ships and a few million scared people. They have no idea what we really built out there. President Hayes studied the classified files in front of her. Each page told the story of another world that had faced the Council's demands. The Regelians had surrendered and were turned into servants. The vegan colonies had been broken apart. Their people moved to prison worlds. 17 different species had tried to negotiate with the Council. All 17 had lost everything. What about the other colonies? President Hayes asked. Mars, Europa, Titan, all our people out there? Jake smiled for the first time in days. They are ready too. Every mining station, every research base, every place where humans live and work. The Council thinks they are looking at scattered settlements with no defenses. They will learn how wrong they are. General Davis stood up and walked to the big map on the wall. It showed the solar system and all the places where humans lived. For 5 years, we have been preparing for this day. Every ship we built, every weapon we made, every person we trained. The Council is about to learn why you should never threaten a human's home. The alien message played again on the screen. Zarthik's cold voice filled the room. Submit to Council rule or face the consequences. Jake looked at his friends around the table. He saw determination in their eyes. Fear, too, but more than that, he saw the same thing he felt in his own heart. Humans did not kneel to tyrants. They had fought for their freedom on Earth for thousands of years. Now they would fight for their freedom among the stars. "Send a message to all our hidden bases," President Hayes ordered. "Tell them the Council is coming. Tell them it is time to show these aliens what happens when someone threatens humanity." Jake began typing the orders that would change everything. In 72 hours, the Council would arrive expecting to find a weak species ready to surrender. Instead, they would discover that humanity had spent 5 years turning their entire solar system into a fortress. The Council wanted peace, but they were about to get war instead. The message went out through secret channels to every human base and every hidden ship. From the ice mines of Europa to the solar collectors near Mercury, from the deep space stations to the underground bunkers on Mars. Everywhere humans lived, they received the same 3 words: "The time has come." Admiral Morrison looked at the countdown timer on his screen. 68 hours until the Council fleet arrived. 68 hours until humanity would either win their freedom or lose everything they had built among the stars. He had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. Now it was time to find out if it would be enough. Captain Ben Sullivan walked onto the bridge of the UES Intrepid. The ship was old and looked tired. Its hull was scratched and dented from years of use. The weapons were basic laser cannons that any modern ship could easily beat. To anyone watching, the Intrepid was just another weak human vessel with no chance against the Council's advanced technology. Ben liked it that way. He wanted the Council to think humans were helpless. For 6 months, Council spy ships had been watching the Intrepid and 11 other human vessels. These 12 ships were all the Council could see of humanity's space fleet. They looked old, slow, and completely outmatched. What the Council spies could not see were the 300 warships hidden behind Jupiter's largest moon. They could not detect the weapons factories buried deep inside asteroids. They had no idea that human engineers had been working day and night for 5 years to build the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. "Captain, we are getting a message from Admiral Morrison," said Lieutenant Amy Chun from her station. "The Council scouts are moving closer. They want to get a better look at our defenses." Ben smiled. "Let them look. Make sure they see exactly what we want them to see." On the moon, Dr. Angela Foster worked in a secret laboratory built inside an old crater. The facility was hidden under fake rock and metal that looked like natural moon surface. Council sensors had scanned the area dozens of times and found nothing unusual. They had no idea that the most advanced research center in human history was right under their noses. "The new shields are working perfectly," Dr. Foster reported to her team. "Council weapons are designed to break through their own shield technology. But our shields work completely differently. Their weapons will be useless against us." Dr. Foster had spent 2 years studying pieces of Council technology that human spies had stolen. She learned that the Council had not improved their weapons or defenses for over 200 years. They had grown lazy and comfortable. They believed their technology was perfect and could never be beaten. They were wrong. Lieutenant Commander Paul Jenkins commanded the UES Phantom, a ship that did not officially exist. It was hidden in the shadow of Saturn's rings, along with 50 other vessels just like it. The Phantom was built using technology that no Council ship could match. It could move faster than anything the Council had ever seen. Its weapons could punch through Council shields like paper. Most importantly, it was completely invisible to Council sensors. "All systems are ready, Commander," reported Sergeant Lisa Martinez from the weapons station. "The Council has no idea we are here." Paul looked at the tactical display showing the positions of all human forces. Hundreds of ships were hidden throughout the solar system. Battle stations were built into asteroids and moons. Weapon platforms floated in space, disguised as communication satellites. The Council thought they were looking at a few weak colonies and some old mining equipment. They were actually looking at the most heavily defended star system in the galaxy. The Council is making the same mistake they always make, Paul said to his crew. They think all species are like them. They think we build our defenses the same way they do. They expect to see big space stations and obvious military bases. They cannot imagine that we would hide our strength. On Mars, Commander Steve Cooper watched Council scout ships pass overhead. The aliens were scanning the human colonies, counting the people and measuring their defenses. They saw exactly what the humans wanted them to see: frightened civilians and a few small security forces. What they did not see was the massive underground city that housed 50,000 soldiers and their equipment. They did not detect the missile silos hidden under fake farms. They missed the fighter craft hangars built into the sides of mountains. The Council scouts saw a weak colony of miners and farmers. They completely missed the fortress that could hold off an entire invasion fleet. Let them think we are helpless, Steve told his officers. When they attack, they will learn the truth soon enough. Back on Earth, Admiral Morrison received reports from commanders throughout the solar system. Every hidden base was ready. Every secret weapon was armed. Every trap was set. The Council was about to walk into the greatest ambush in galactic history. They still think we only have 12 ships. Admiral Morrison told President Hayes during their secure video call. Their intelligence reports say humanity has maybe 1 million people trained for combat. They estimate our total military production at less than 1% of their own. President Hayes looked at the real numbers on her screen. 3 million soldiers ready for combat. Manufacturing centers that could build ships faster than the Council could destroy them. Weapons that could cut through Council defenses like a hot knife through butter. How long until they attack? She asked. 48 hours, Admiral Morrison replied. Maybe less. Their main fleet is already moving into position at the edge of our solar system. They are confident this will be easy. The Council's advanced scouts had been watching human space for months. They had counted every visible ship, every known base, every apparent weakness. They had written detailed reports about humanity's primitive technology and small military forces. Every report reached the same conclusion: humans would surrender. After a brief show of force, Captain Ben Sullivan read the intercepted Council communications on his private screen. The enemy commanders were already planning their victory celebration. They had divided up the solar system among themselves. They were discussing which human colonies would make the best slave camps. They have no idea what is coming, Ben said to his bridge crew. In 2 days, they will learn that humans do not make good slaves. Dr. Angela Foster made final adjustments to the quantum communication system that connected all human forces. The Council would try to jam human communications during the battle, but they would be jamming the wrong frequencies. Human ships would be able to coordinate their attacks while the Council fleet flew blind. The trap is ready, she reported to Admiral Morrison. When they arrive, we will be able to hit them from directions they cannot even imagine. The countdown continued. 36 hours until the Council fleet arrived. 36 hours until humanity would reveal its true strength. The Council expected to find sheep waiting for slaughter. Instead, they would find wolves ready for war. A Council war fleet came out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a pack of metal wolves. 300 ships spread out in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the distant light of the sun. Fleet Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, and felt the familiar satisfaction of another easy victory. Scan for human forces, he ordered his bridge crew. Sub-Commander Kethron worked at the sensor station, his 6 arms moving across the controls with practiced skill. "I detect 12 human vessels positioned around their homeworld," Kethron reported. "They appear to be old cargo ships with basic weapons attached. No significant threat detected." Veltar had conquered 6 worlds for the Council. He had seen this same pattern every time. The primitive species would try to defend their home with whatever ships they could find. They would put up a brief fight, then surrender when they realized how outmatched they were. Humans would be no different. "What about planetary defenses?" Veltar asked. "Minimal," Kethron replied. "A few orbital stations, some missile batteries. On the major colonies. Nothing our shields cannot handle easily." On the bridge of the UES Intrepid, Captain Ben Sullivan watched the Council fleet spread out across his tactical display. The enemy ships were moving into the exact positions the human war planners had predicted. They were following the same attack pattern they had used on 17 other worlds. "They are making this too easy," Ben said to his crew. "Signal all ships. Operation Dark Harbor begins in 60 seconds. Ben opened a secure channel to Admiral Morrison on Luna. "Admiral, the Council has taken the bait. They are positioned exactly where we want them." "Understood, Captain." "Admiral," Morrison replied, "all hidden units report ready. Prepare to show the Council what humanity really looks like." Fleet Commander Veltar received a transmission from the human ships. He expected it to be a surrender offer, like all the others. Instead, a human face appeared on his screen. The man was middle-aged with gray hair and cold blue eyes. He wore a military uniform that looked clean and professional. "I am Admiral Morrison of the Human Defense Force," the man said. "You have entered our space without permission. You have threatened our people. You have made a very serious mistake." Veltar laughed. "Human, you are outnumbered 25 to 1. Your ships are outdated and weak. Surrender now, and we will be merciful." Admiral Morrison smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You should have done more research before you came here. Let me show you what you missed." The words were barely out of Admiral Morrison's mouth when the impossible happened. Veltar's sensors suddenly detected energy signatures all around the solar system. Ships were appearing out of nowhere, decloaking from positions where nothing had been moments before. Weapon platforms that had looked like space junk were powering up massive guns. Asteroid mining stations were opening up to reveal military bases. "Status report," Veltar shouted. His bridge crew scrambled to make sense of what they were seeing. 350 human ships decloaking throughout the system, Kethron reported, his voice shaking. "Energy readings indicate technology superior to our own. Multiple weapon platforms coming online. Defensive positions on every major planetary body." Veltar stared at the tactical display in horror. The handful of human ships had somehow become a fleet larger than his own. Worse, the energy signatures from these vessels showed technology that exceeded anything the Council had developed. "Impossible," he whispered. "No species has ever hidden forces of this magnitude." Captain Ben Sullivan watched as the Council ships scrambled to respond to the new threat. Their neat formation was breaking apart as commanders tried to figure out where the attacks would come from. The UES Intrepid, which had looked like a helpless cargo ship minutes before, was now revealing its true capabilities. "All weapons online," reported Lieutenant Shun. "Quantum torpedoes loaded and ready." "Fire," Ben ordered. The first shots came from every direction at once. Human ships that had been invisible moments before opened fire with weapons the Council had never seen. The attacks were perfectly coordinated, hitting the Council fleet's most vulnerable points with surgical precision. Admiral Morrison had studied Council ship designs for months. He knew exactly where their shields were weakest, where their weapons were stored, where their command centers were located. Every shot was calculated to cause maximum damage. The Council flagship Dominator shuddered as quantum torpedoes punched through its shields and tore holes in its hull. Veltar grabbed his command chair as the bridge lights flickered and sparks flew from damaged control panels. "Return fire," he ordered, but his weapons officer was already dead at his station. Throughout the Council fleet, the same scene was playing out. Ships that had been confident and powerful minutes before were now burning wrecks drifting in space. The human attack had been so sudden and so devastating that most Council vessels never got a chance to fight back. Commander Lisa Martinez controlled the hidden battle station inside the asteroid series. Her facility had been disguised as a mining operation for 2 years, but now it revealed its true purpose. Massive railguns emerged from fake rock formations and began firing at the Council ships with incredible accuracy. Direct hits on Council vessels 7, 12, and 15, she reported to Admiral Morrison. Enemy shields are failing across the board. Dr. Angela Foster monitored the battle from her secret base on the moon. The quantum communication system was working perfectly, allowing human forces to coordinate their attacks while the Council fleet stumbled in confusion. "Their jamming attempts are useless," she reported. "They are trying to block communication frequencies we stopped using 3 years ago." Lieutenant Commander Paul Jenkins brought the UEC Phantom out of hiding near Saturn. His ship moved with impossible speed, appearing behind Council vessels before they could react. The Phantom's weapons cut through enemy ships like they were made of paper. "This is too easy," Paul said to his crew. "They have no idea how to fight an opponent with better technology." Fleet Commander Veltar tried to organize a retreat, but the human forces had surrounded his entire fleet. Every escape route was blocked. Every attempt to break through the human lines was met with devastating firepower. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Emergency jump to hyperspace." "Hyperspace is being jammed," Kethran reported. "The humans are using some kind of quantum field to prevent our escape." Veltar realized with growing horror that his fleet was trapped. The easy victory had become a complete disaster. In less than an hour, the Council had gone from predator to prey. "Signal surrender," he ordered. "All ships, signal surrender." Admiral Morrison received the surrender signal from the Council flagship. Around the solar system, human forces held their fire and waited for orders. The first battle was over. Humanity had won, but this was just the beginning. 6 hours after the battle began, the Council's great war fleet was nothing but floating wreckage and burning metal. Fleet Commander Veltar sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed the destruction of his forces. In 300 years of galactic conquest, nothing like this had ever happened to the Council. "Final count," he asked Sub-Commander Kethran, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. 73 ships destroyed, 28 disabled and drifting, 41 attempting to flee but trapped by human jamming, Kethran reported. His voice was flat and emotionless. "The humans are demanding our complete surrender." Veltar had led the conquest of 6 different worlds. He had seen entire civilizations bow before the Council's power. Now he was the one being forced to surrender, and the shame burned in his chest like acid. Admiral Morrison stood in the command center on Luna, watching as human forces captured the surviving Council ships. The battle had gone exactly as planned. The Council fleet had been destroyed so quickly that they never had a chance to send a message to their home worlds. "All communications beyond the solar system are blocked," reported Dr. Angela Foster. "The Council leadership has no idea their enforcement fleet is gone." This was the most important part of the plan. The Council had to believe their fleet was still approaching human space. Admiral Morrison needed time to prepare for what came next, and that meant keeping the Council in the dark about their defeat. Captain, Lisa Martinez commanded the prison ship that had been hidden inside the asteroid Vesta. For 2 years, the facility had looked like a simple mining operation. Now it revealed its true purpose as hundreds of council prisoners were brought aboard for questioning. "We need to know everything," Admiral Morrison told her over the secure channel. "Their star charts, their military bases, their political structure. Everything." Lisa nodded. "The interrogation teams are ready. We will have full intelligence reports within 48 hours. The council prisoners were processed through facilities that humans had spent months preparing. Each alien was scanned, cataloged, and questioned by teams of specialists. The humans were not cruel, but they were thorough. They needed to understand their enemy completely. Dr. Angela Foster studied the captured council technology with growing excitement. The human scientists had been working from stolen fragments and partial scans for years. Now they had complete ships and weapon systems to examine. "Their shield generators are actually less advanced than our prototypes," she reported to Admiral Morrison. "They have been using the same basic designs for over 200 years. No improvements, no innovation. They just kept building the same old technology." This discovery explained why the human attack had been so devastating. The council had grown, comfortable with their power. They had stopped trying to improve their weapons and defenses because no one had ever challenged them successfully. They had become weak through their own success. President Hayes called an emergency meeting of the National Security Council. The immediate threat to Earth was over, but the larger danger was just beginning. The Council would eventually notice that their enforcement fleet had disappeared. When that happened, they would send a much larger force. "What are our options?" she asked Admiral Morrison. "We cannot defend Earth forever," General Davis replied. "The Council has thousands of ships and the resources of 73 worlds. They could eventually overwhelm us through sheer numbers." Admiral Morrison studied the star charts that had been taken from council prisoners. The enemy territory stretched across hundreds of light years, with major military bases on dozens of worlds. But there was something interesting about the pattern of their defenses. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the display. "Every council world believes it is safe behind the enforcement fleets. They have no real planetary defenses because they never expected to be attacked." Secretary Brooks leaned forward. "What are you suggesting?" "The Council's entire strategy is based on the idea that conquered species stay conquered," Admiral Morrison explained. "They send out enforcement fleets to maintain order, but they never expect those fleets to be destroyed. What happens when we start taking out their military bases one by one?" A plan that emerged from that meeting was bold and dangerous. Instead of waiting for the Council to send more ships to Earth, humanity would attack Council territory directly. The hidden fleet that had defended the solar system would become the spearhead of an offensive. Captain Ben Sullivan received new orders aboard the UES Intrepid. His ship, along with 50 others, would form the first strike force. Their target was a Council military depot 300 light-years from Earth. Intelligence reports indicated it was lightly defended and contained advanced weapons, plus several hundred warships. "We are not just defending our home anymore," Admiral Morrison announced to his fleet commanders. "We are going to show the Council what happens when someone fights back." Lieutenant Commander Paul Jenkins prepared the UES Phantom for its first deep space mission. The ship's stealth systems would allow it to scout Council territory without being detected. Paul would map their defenses and identify the best targets for human attacks. "The Council has never faced an enemy that could strike back," Paul told. His crew, they are used to being the hunters. Now they are about to become the hunted. The captured Council officers were kept in comfortable but secure facilities. They were given good food and medical care, but they were also constantly questioned by human intelligence officers. Many of them seemed confused by their treatment. "Why do you not execute us?" asked one council captain during his interrogation. "We came to conquer your world." "Because we are not like you," replied the human officer. "We do not kill prisoners. We do not enslave entire species. We fight for freedom, not conquest." This difference in philosophy would become crucial in the months ahead. The council ruled through fear and oppression. Humanity would offer something the galaxy had not seen in centuries, a chance for liberation. Within 2 weeks, the first human strike force was ready to depart for council space. 300 ships, armed with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built, prepared to carry the fight to the enemy's home territory. Admiral Morrison watched the fleet prepare for departure from his command center. The ships were painted black to help them hide in the darkness of space. They carried no identification marks, no flags, no symbols of Earth. They were the shadow fleet that would bring freedom to the galaxy. "Remember," he told the departing commanders, "we are not conquerors. We are liberators. Every world we free, every species we save, every chain we break, that is our victory." The war was about to begin in earnest. The Council had wanted peace from humanity. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. They had awakened the human desire for justice, and that desire would not be satisfied until every enslaved world was free. 6 months after the Council's enforcement fleet had vanished in the Sol system, strange reports began reaching the Council's core worlds. Military installations were being attacked by unknown forces. Entire patrol fleets were disappearing without sending distress signals. Garrison forces were found abandoned, their weapons missing, their personnel gone. Council Supreme Leader Zarthik called an emergency meeting in the crystal chambers of the homeworld. Representatives from 73 worlds gathered in the know. Great Hall, their usual confidence replaced by growing fear and confusion. "The pattern is becoming clear," reported Intelligence Director Marketh. "Someone is hunting our military forces. 15 major installations have been destroyed. 43 patrol fleets have vanished, and we have lost contact with 7 garrison worlds." The council members looked at each other with worry. For 3 centuries, they had been the hunters. No species had ever dared to attack council territory. The very idea seemed impossible. Who could be doing this? Asked the representative from Rigel Prime. "All known species have been pacified. There are no rebel forces with this kind of capability." But there were. Admiral Morrison commanded the campaign from his mobile command ship, the UES Liberation. The vessel had been built using the best of human and captured council technology. It was faster than any council ship, more heavily armed, and completely invisible to their sensors. The human fleet had grown far beyond its original size. Captured council vessels had been refitted with human technology and crewed by liberated slaves. The ships that had once enforced council rule now fought for freedom. Captain Ben Sullivan stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the U.E.S. Defiance. The ship had been a council-heavy cruiser before its capture. Now it carried weapons that could punch through any council defense. More importantly, it carried a crew of humans and former council slaves working together. "Next target is the Centauri system," Ben announced to his mixed crew. Intelligence reports indicate 300 council ships and 50,000 prisoners in the labor camps. The Centauri had been conquered by the council 40 years ago. Their entire population had been enslaved and forced to work in the mines that fed the council's war machine. But they had never stopped hoping for freedom. Commander Lisa Martinez led the liberation of the vegan colonies. Her task force included ships crewed by vegan refugees who had escaped council rule years before. They knew every detail of their former homeworlds and burned with the desire for revenge. "The council garrison is based on Vega 7, reported Captain Steve Cooper, a vegan who had joined the human fleet. 400 ships, but most of them are old patrol vessels. They will not expect a real attack. The attack on Vega 7 became the model for all future liberation operations. The human fleet struck fast and hard, destroying the Council garrison before they could respond. But instead of occupying the system, the humans did something the Council had never expected. They freed the slaves and left. "We are not here to conquer," Admiral Morrison broadcast to the liberated vegan population. "We are here to give you back your freedom. What you do with it is up to you." The vegans were confused at first. They had been slaves for so long that they had forgotten what freedom meant. But as the human fleet prepared to leave, something remarkable happened. Thousands of vegans volunteered to join the liberation forces. "We want to help free others," said Captain Cooper. "We want to make sure no one else suffers what we suffered." Dr. Angela Foster had established research centers on 17 different worlds, each working to improve human technology while developing new weapons and defenses. But more importantly, she was teaching liberated species how to build and maintain their own military forces. "The goal is not to create an empire," she explained to President Hayes during a secure communication. "The goal is to create a galaxy where every species can defend itself." The Council's response was predictable but ineffective. They began pulling their forces back from frontier worlds to protect their core systems. Each withdrawal allowed the liberation forces to claim more territory and rescue more enslaved populations. "They are abandoning the outer colonies," reported Lieutenant Commander Paul Jenkins during a strategy meeting. 17 systems have been evacuated in the past month. The Council is running scared. But the human commanders knew this was just the beginning. The Council still had thousands of ships and vast resources. They would eventually rally their forces for a massive counterattack. The question was whether the liberation forces could build enough strength to survive it. Captain Ben Sullivan received reports from scouts throughout Council territory. The enemy was mobilizing everything they had. Ships were being pulled from police duties, defense forces were being concentrated, and the Council's best commanders were being recalled to plan the counteroffensive. "They are planning something big," Ben reported to Admiral Morrison. "Intelligence suggests they are assembling the largest fleet in galactic history." Admiral Morrison studied the reports from his command center. The numbers were staggering. The Council was gathering over 5,000 ships around their homeworld. It would be the largest space battle ever fought. "Let them come," he said to his staff. "We have something they do not understand. We have allies." The liberation campaign had freed over 200 worlds and rescued billions of enslaved beings. Many of those worlds had joined the growing alliance against the Council. The Centauri had rebuilt their fleet and were eager for revenge. The vegans had become expert guerrilla fighters. Dozens of other species had contributed ships, weapons, and soldiers to the cause. The Council sees this as a rebellion that needs to be crushed, Admiral Morrison explained to the Alliance commanders. They do not understand that this is a revolution. The difference is that rebellions can be defeated, but revolutions change everything. The final phase of the campaign began when human intelligence confirmed the location of the Council's main fleet. They were positioned around the crystal homeworld, waiting for the liberation forces to attack them directly. "They expect us to come at them head-on," Admiral Morrison told his commanders. "They are prepared for a traditional battle with fleets lined up against each other. But we are not going to give them what they expect." Instead of attacking the Council homeworld directly, the liberation forces launched simultaneous strikes on every remaining Council military base. While the enemy waited for a battle that never came, their supply lines were being cut and their support infrastructure was being destroyed. The message that reached every world in Council territory was broadcast by Captain Paul Jenkins from the bridge of the U.E.'s Phantom. The ship hung in space just outside the Council homeworld's defense perimeter. invisible to their sensors, but close enough to deliver the final ultimatum. "The Council's reign is over," Paul announced. "You can surrender now and face trial for your crimes, or you can fight and face destruction. But understand this, we are not here to conquer. We are here to liberate. Every species you enslaved is now free. Every world you controlled is now independent. The galaxy belongs to everyone, not just to you." The Council's response was to launch their massive fleet in a desperate attempt to crush the liberation forces. 5,000 ships moved out from their homeworld, seeking a decisive battle that would end the rebellion once and for all. What they found instead was empty space. The liberation forces had scattered throughout the galaxy, using hit-and-run tactics to avoid direct confrontation. While the Council fleet searched for an enemy that refused to fight, their homeworld's defenses were being systematically destroyed by stealth attacks. "They cannot catch us, and they cannot defend everything," Admiral Morrison observed. "They are learning the same lesson that every tyrant eventually learns. It is easier to conquer than to rule, and easier to rule than to maintain power forever." The war that had begun with the Council's simple ultimatum had become something they never expected. The galaxy was waking up. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were remembering what freedom felt like. The Council had created their own worst nightmare, a universe where their victims were no longer afraid to fight back. At the center of it all was humanity's Black Fleet, the shadow force that had turned the galaxy upside down. They had come from nowhere, armed with impossible technology and driven by an idea that the Council could not understand. The idea that freedom was worth any price, and that no one had the right to enslave another intelligent being. The Council had waited for peace from humanity. Instead, they had received something far more dangerous. They had received justice.